Everything negative that is continuous, that is like a cycle in your life, starts with one negative thought. How that sprouts, maybe it's from seeing something, right? Maybe it's from hearing something. However it may occur, these thoughts, these things that you see, the things that you hear, if you don't have the mental fortitude to control how your mind receives it, you will put it out in your actions. Proverbs 23, verse 7, coming out of the KJV. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Think to yourself, what does that mean? As he thinketh in his heart, so is he. We know above all things God judges upon the heart. It's what's going on inside of here that determines how the judgment will be for you. And a lot of the reason why I'm making this video is because I want to help you get out of this like negative cycle, this self-devouring phase of your life. And now it's important to understand what this looks like for everybody. And we see it through history, we see it through the scriptures, we see it through our personalities and through ourselves. It's called the pride cycle. Everybody always starts out humble because you got to build up. You've got very little and you're working so hard. You're doing everything you can. And finally, either you'll see a group of people or yourself start to gain riches or start to get comfortable or start to feel high and mighty. Then you hit this point of pride. And this can last forever. It can last for so long. It's truly up to you. And then finally, it comes right back down. A crash, maybe a hardship, a trial, and it all starts back from the beginning. But it doesn't mean that you can't control how this goes. It doesn't mean that you can't control how long you are in one of these pieces of the cycle. We're all bound to fall back into pride. We're all bound to struggle, to fall, to have hardships. If we didn't have those things, then what would life even be? It'd be boring, it'd be meaningless. There'd be no substance to it. So let's kind of go back. As a man thinketh, so is he. Anything that passes through the mind, whether it be negative, positive, it could be words of affirmation, telling yourself, hey, I'm doing good. You will be successful. You're going to do great today. You'll do just fine. Or on the other hand, maybe things like the thought of drugs, temptations, maybe impure thoughts of lust, thoughts of envy, thoughts of self-sabotage. All of these things are so real, yet we tend to ignore them all so often. And every single one of these thoughts that comes through your mind reflects perfectly on your actions, your behaviors, and your habits. See, a lot of the time, sin, trial, addiction, everything negative that is continuous, that is like a cycle in your life, starts with one negative thought. How that sprouts, maybe it's from seeing something, right? Maybe it's from hearing something. However it may occur, these thoughts, these things that you see, the things that you hear, if you don't have the mental fortitude to control how your mind receives it, you will put it out in your actions. You'll make one bad decision, and that one bad decision will lead to another, that to another, and to another. And little by little, it's this like fungus, this virus that is just growing and feeding off of your soul. Until finally, one day, what does it do? Well, creates habit. And habits are so hard to kick. Because habits are this thing, it's you're fighting against something that's actually good, something that's natural. It's your mind receiving the dopamine and saying, hey, this activity is good, it is rewarding, it is fulfilling. And that's what we as humans seek. From a spiritual standpoint, from a physical, from an intellectual standpoint, that's what we seek. We seek fulfillment, right? And the hardest thing is that the negative things, the things that are going to kill you, that are going to ruin your life, offer the most dopamine. It's not natural. It's not a natural hit at all. And it lasts for maybe like 15 minutes. Or who knows? I don't know how long it's going to last, right? There's this an interesting fact that the thought of doing cocaine produces more dopamine than actually doing cocaine. But you know what's even crazier about that? At a certain point, once you've sniffed the devil's dandruff long enough, your brain starts to adjust to it. You start seeing that there's all this dopamine coming in from external sources. And what does it do? It starts destroying the dopamine receivers inside of your brain until one day you can no longer receive dopamine. Little by little, you're being unseamed, pulled apart, and destructed. In so many ways, I can't help but think that to many of you experiencing addiction, which I think we all have of some sort, this would be quite discouraging. I would completely understand if the thought of a substance completely destroying your chemical makeup inside of your brain, how that would discourage you from actually wanting to try anymore. How you wouldn't want to put in the effort. But I would just go off and just say that that should never be the case. In your life, you should never lose hope. See, science can explain some of these like basic things, but but what science can't seem to grasp is the spirit. It's those extra 3 pounds that go unaccounted for when the body is all settled and dead. There's an additional, I can't remember, I think it's 3 pounds that science cannot prove what it is. After your body's like put out all of its substances, its excrements. What is that 3 pounds? Is it the soul? What is the weight of a soul? After the muscles have settled, after everything has settled, they cannot account for those 3 pounds. Is this not in and of itself evidence of a higher law, a higher purpose? In my life, I've experienced addiction. Plenty of it. In fact, there were times in my life, in my high school year, when it felt so much that I didn't know if I could ever find a way out. It wasn't until a very serious commitment with God that things started to change. It was a commitment I don't think most people are capable of making unless they're at a really, really low point, unless they're absolutely and completely hopeless. I allowed God to pass through my mind. I allowed Him in through prayer, through silence, through scripture study, and through sacrifice. By sacrifice, I mean I went on a 2-year mission. I tell you that once I had truly thrown away everything, it was as though the addictions, the temptations all kind of resolved themselves. Once I had resolved my issues with the Lord, they truly were taken away. You hear about it in the scriptures, but it's hard to fathom how would that possibly be. I've been struggling since day one. Is my faith so much less than theirs? No, not necessarily. You have to understand also that my experiences are different from you. You are a completely different being. You also have to understand that it was years of me having to face these trials until it actually finally clicked, until things actually worked. It's not like everything is just granted. I still had to suffer, and so are you. But that shouldn't be discouraging, because life is so much greater on the other side. I guess what I'm saying in kind of simpler terms is that we need to allow light back into our lives. Right now we're on this kind of like subscription basis, this prescription basis, you could say, however many hours of scrolling on YouTube, on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, right? Every single day. To turn around, watch TV, lie down on the couch, sleep in, go to bed late, eat a bag of chips rather than, having like a good healthy meal, rather than eating some fruits as a snack or having a salad or it's always, we always want the easier option. It's like the easier option though, even though it is sweet, even though it gives you the path of most satisfaction and temporary fulfillment, it doesn't actually fulfill you. When I talk about allowing light back in your life, I'm talking about like the scriptures, okay? See if I can grab them. I'm talking about the scriptures, okay? Every single one of these pages here have been studied through and through for years. If I don't allow the minimum of this prescription of, temporal joy, if I don't limit that, then eventually it takes up so much of my time that I'm not capable or I become too lazy to even open this positive prescription, this spiritual prescription, the prescription that brings joy and light and life into your life, right? I'm talking about prayer. I'm not just talking like scripture study's perfect. That's how the Lord speaks to us. Most often, that's how the Lord speaks to us. And of course, prayer, that's how we speak to him. That's how we give him the desires of our heart. Not that he doesn't understand them already. He wants us to act upon it, reach out to him. There's no act in faith. He wants us to build our faith. So if we just expect him to solve our problems, nothing is resolved. If we don't counsel with the Lord when we are struggling with an addiction, nothing can be solved or resolved. It's just guilt and shame, guilt and shame, guilt and shame for the rest of our life. The other thing would be silence. I don't think people talk about that a lot. When you're in your car, it is very possible to be very lonely in your life, but not alone, right? But when you're in your car, you should turn off the radio, turn off the air conditioning. You should just allow absolute and pure silence. Go somewhere quiet. Open up your windows. Even if it is cold, allow the wind to just come into your car. Or at least get outside, walk around. I had a friend who was telling me about an experience where he was praying out in the open, in the nature. He said it is so important to actually just go and physically touch grass. You know, everybody's joking about this, but physically go out there and actually touch grass, right? No more of this carpet fake stuff, right? Get on your knees in a field somewhere and pray, or allow silence. It is when we are alone with ourselves, in absolute silence, away from worldly distractions, that we are also alone with God. That's when true light and joy comes into our life. That's when the problems we have start to resolve themselves. And I shouldn't say they don't resolve themselves, right? We resolve them through the help of the Lord. My only invitation for you all, I think you all get the point. Start finding ways to fill your life with joy. And the content you consume, make sure it's positive. In the music, in everything that you do, in your actions, your behaviors. You should never be unkind to someone, because that doesn't allow light. It brings more darkness, a cloud of judgment into your mind. You don't need that. Substance isn't going to bring light in your life, but I can promise you that the scriptures will. That when you open those holy pages, the Lord will manifest himself unto you. I promise that today, as you watch this video, if you take my invitation seriously to start seeking light in your life and to minimize worldly distractions, temporal joys, and satisfactions, you will find more purpose than you ever thought you were capable of having. I don't believe we just came to this earth to work a job, a 9 to 5, eat, sleep, and obey, just to wake up and do the same thing over and over again. I think repetition is the death of inspiration. And I'm not talking about basic inspiration. I'm talking about divine inspiration. Inspiration from above. I believe we have a much higher purpose. And if we do nothing with this time here on earth, how guilty will we feel before the feet of God? I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Gabriel Bowman. Thank you so much. Let me know if there's anything else you guys need to hear about. If you guys need any personal support, I'm not going to push some agenda on you. If you don't believe in God, that's okay. Email me. It's at quickreset@gmail.com. It's in the description below. Also in the bio on my channel. I'd be more than happy to talk to you, help you out through any emotions or feelings that you have, help you set some goals even if that's what you need. Without further ado, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.